So guys, yeah, so first off, I'm very, very glad you can hear me. I had a bit of a Zoom panic just before this where literally my Wi-Fi would work on my phone, but not on my laptop. But the balcony clearly was calling to me and it's better out here. So hopefully we're good for the whole time. Um, so I'm out for a walk and my foot isn't working great. All good. No, glad to hear it. Actually, I was listening to a podcast the other day and I've heard that Ireland's one of the most tax-friendly places that speaks English. We've got David finally, but I don't know if you can probably hear us. And I'm muting for a second. I've heard you guys are very tax-friendly for places that aren't Dubai. Maybe I'll move to Ireland. I've heard good things. Right, guys. So, status check, as always. Put in the chat number of clients currently on your roster. So how many people roughly? Don't need to be exact if you don't have it in front of you, but a rough idea. Really, I heard 12%. 25, that's good. What else we got, guys? 10 and dropping. Why dropping, Rob?
Oh, it's intentional. I'm stepping away from one-to-one stuff.
Okay. How many online have you got?
So I've only got 3 or 4 online, but I do a small group facility as well, which is where I am now.
Okay.
So I'm here like 35 hours a week plus clients and stuff. So I'm just kind of transitioning.
Okay. Yeah. A little bit of the burn the boats situation. Good, man. But you'd be amazed how many coaches that are like, I've got like 30 online clients, but I just need one more to step away from the gym floor. And then they just need another one more. And then you need another one more. And then they need another one more, you know. This isn't you, Nicola, because you've got like a full-time job with contracts and shit. But I'm talking about people that could like leave tomorrow and don't do it. If that's what they want to do. And I say that because Kane's just jumped into the room, who was the opposite. He wants to do one-to-one, which you can make an absolute great living with one-to-one. But if you want to go one way, go like at some point you've got to take a scary risk. Like when I decided to do making the leap either to a one-to-one PT job or to online if you're a one-to-one PT. Like I left one-to-one when I moved back. I was like, I'm not going to take any clients. I've got to make this work or I'm going to fail trying. You need to, otherwise you just end up. I was in Hong Kong for years just thinking like when I was at UP, I just need one good thing to happen and I need another good contract or something like that. And it never happens because the thing that stops you is that full-time graft. So we're at 27 for Shona, 23 for Martin, good. 28 one-to-one, 33 group. Ashton's killing it. Kane, put your numbers of clients in the chat, please, dude. I know you picked up a few recently. So whilst Kane's at 14, there he goes, all in it. So of those people, how many are on track? How many are off track? And how many have a clear goal? I should have said that one first. So clear goal, on track, off track. That's 7 on track, Kane, and 7 with a clear goal. What's the... I want to see if you're about 50%. Both. Okay, sweet. Okay, that's decent. So we've got 7 people we might need to work on bringing it up. 6 with clear goal, 5 on track. Cool. And that's with 10, right? Okay, cool. 12 on track. So we've got about a 50% ratio here, which is, for the most part, which is decent. Cool. As always, guys, remember, we're always aiming for that 1 in 4, right, as a minimum. And when I say 1 in 4, that should be 1 in 4 be like, oh my God, that's amazing. So you're probably looking at 50% people being on track to allow 1 in 4 to be like, this is Instagram worthy. When I say Instagram worthy, just because that's a metric, not because we should be judged on Instagram. We should be judged on clients being happy. 21 to 1. Cool. Awesome, David. Yeah, if you've got that, how many of them you think have a clear goal? How many think are on track? How many think are off track? 1 to 1, 70% of a clear goal. I'll say 2 to 3 of that group are not on track. That's a great stat, Ashling. Well done. First group check-ins this week. Okay, cool. So that's good. That'd be interesting to see. There'll be a point, I think, Ashling, with your group where they'll get results that are as comparable with your one-to-one. Just because of the footfall of them. And they're like the improvements of systems. Clear goal 18 on clear goal 18 and on track for it. Brilliant. But all 18? I'm impressed. Good work. 4 that are bumbling and 2 off track. Okay, I love that. Love that. Okay, good. So we're all doing really, really well, guys. So open floor then, guys. Obviously, I don't have the whiteboard today, but I can try with the interactive Zoom whiteboard, but issues I can't draw very well. But open floor, guys. Any questions? Clients, nerd shit, systems, whatever you need help with. Showing like this, I see the
Can I
wave. Go for it. Of course you can.
I've got a client who has come on board. She's previously worked with me, but she went away and she unfortunately had breast cancer. So she's overcome breast cancer, but she's having a bit of a problem trying to lose the weight. I can't decide whether that's potentially to do with the knock-on effect of the cancer or if it's maybe just a mindset thing. She just struggled with being overweight before.
Yes.
I don't know much about medication with cancer, to be honest with you. So I don't know if there's something
Yeah.
maybe there's
Okay.
questions that I would need to ask her. Is there something I need to ask her to get a better understanding?
I mean, I think when it comes to cancer, I think no. First of all, right? Like I have dealt with someone in this exact position. So, someone recovering in remission from prostate cancer. So like I'll try my best to help, but I think no one's expecting me or yourself to be an expert in chemotherapy and cancer and recovery.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing you can do is obviously just like don't try and be the expert in it and just be like ask like you just asked me. Like, okay, so obviously like I'm not a doctor. I mean, what's your doctor said about weight loss? Like, is there anything I need to be aware of from your treatment perspective? And just sort of getting an idea of what she says, because she might tell you some stuff that we're not going to be able to piece together as a group here, but the doctor might be able to.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to be aware of when you're looking at anything like this, right? Especially, has she gone through chemotherapy?
Yeah. So she's done her chemotherapy, had her breast augmentation, and
Okay.
she's now got the clear.
Okay, so we're looking at quite a huge amount of stress on the body, right? So if there is a weight loss interference, let's say, on this, then we're probably going to be looking at, well, how do we manage someone's stress cup? And it's going to come mainly to those basics, right? So it's going to be like, great, let's look at where sleep is. Let's look at how she's managing stress. Let's look at her lifestyle. Let's look at nutrient deficiencies, and maybe supporting certain things with supplementation may help. Like I always think the big four with supplementation are zinc, omegas, magnesium, and B vitamins. I think they cover most bases. But the advantage of what she's probably having had done is that she's probably had some blood tests. I am recording, aren't I? Just making sure, because I forgot to record the other day. Yes. Yeah, she's probably had some blood tests. So you might have a better idea of where she is. So you might want to see if she has some blood tests, get hold of them, because if stress over a long period of time, and I appreciate she's probably been dealing with this for a very, very long time, on top of all the other stress that might be in her life, might impact her thyroid. So look out for more symptoms like real exhaustion, which just could be in recovery from stress. It could be cold hands and feet, could be adrenal sort of stuff. But they're the basis to cover first. Just make sure she's okay from a health perspective. If you can get bloods just to know where she's okay, she's on the right level. And if she is, then it doesn't change, in my opinion.
Okay.
When I work with a guy called Winston, who was in, as I said, in remission from prostate cancer. And we got him very lean. And all of his problems were he was a dimwit with food. It was nothing to do with his recovery. And I'll tell you a funny story about two funny stories about dimwit with food in the first couple of weeks. But in his onboarding form, any food intolerances? And he says, just eggplants. By the way, I still wasn't sure what an eggplant was back then. I'm still not entirely sure. Eggplant is aubergine, courgette? Courgette, right? Yeah, aubergine. Yeah. The funny emoji. So he was like, okay. I asked him again in the session, any food intolerances? Yeah, just eggplant. Okay. I was going to put it in his plan anyway. Didn't know what it was. So next day he comes in. He goes, Simon, is the protein powder supposed to be burning? And I'm like, well, maybe you have an issue with dairy. He goes, oh yeah, I'm lactose intolerant. Gave him 4 opportunities to tell me. Didn't tell me. He's also the person the first week gave me his meal plan, ran through his macros, ran through the rationale on the my equivalent of a kickstart call in person. Then he was like, next week, protein was like 10 grams, carbs like 300 grams. I'm like, okay, let's work on this. Let's try and work stuff up. Next week, exactly the same thing. Like, he just got in one and out the other. Next thing, exactly the same thing. I'm like, Winston, what's going on, man? Like, is there something that's really not going in with what I'm saying? And he went, oh, do you not own MyFitnessPal? He thought I owned MyFitnessPal. And he's given the targets whatever they give him, and he's chosen a low protein plan. And like, if I was like, Winston, if I own MyFitnessPal, then I wouldn't be doing this. So I think like the biggest thing to aware is like often, and the reason why I bring up that story is because a lot of people will get clients of this, and rightly so, because coaches are empathetic, kind, caring creatures, that they kind of go, okay, I need to make sure I don't push them too hard. And let's see where they're at. And I need to work on their health. And you need to consider it. But most of the time, it's still I don't know. Like, if they hadn't had that issue, the reason why they weren't losing weight was probably because they were eating too much food and they didn't know what was in the food. So the same rules apply for the most part. Just keep an eye on the symptoms. I think that's it for now. Any further up on that, Shona? Does that answer your question? Yeah, all good. Awesome.
No, that's fine. I absolutely really funny though, because she's a nurse. And it baffles me that nurses know
the worst.
all the ins and outs and are still overweight. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Anyway. Doctors are the same, right? If you ever train GPs, they know nothing about food. Nothing.
Yeah.
And then that's like I've given doctors more of a break now than I used to. It comes fashionable in the fitness industry to like smash doctors for like, oh, you don't talk about lifestyle advice, and they should be, and it should be preventative. And I'm like, okay, well, the guys in this room, put in the chat how many years it's been since you've seen a doctor. Say, look at Will's face. I don't even remember, right? Like, so Kane's a good boy. I went last year, but most guys in particular, and girls to a degree, most guys are like, I'll wait till the arm is gangrenous, till my foot's already fallen off for diabetes, till the lump's grown to the size of a basketball, and I go, oh, maybe I should go in. So, like, the doctor's putting out a fire. Like, we are the preventative care. And we also got to think of, like, yes, a doctor could talk about sleep and lifestyle and improving nutrition and exercise. But we struggle to get our clients to do into that. And we speak to our clients every single day. What chance does a doctor have when he speaks to you once every 6 years? So like, I give doctors a little bit of a break. They're overworked, they're underpaid, and they're working the best they can with the tools they've got available, which one might not be an education in nutrition, which could be a problem. And two, because by the time they see people, they're already sick. So they just need the medication of what they're going to actually adhere to. But yes, the GPs and nurses don't know anything about nutrition. Like, never assume, and this goes into another rule, I think, for personal trainers in general, never assume anyone's advanced. Like, and that goes from a nutrition perspective like this, never assume, oh, he's a doctor, he must know what you're talking about, I'll give him macros. But also never assume from a training perspective. One of my earliest juniors, he wrote a program for a client. I think I was on holiday and he couldn't get it approved by me. So he was like, oh, she said she had 2 years worth of training experience. I looked at like squats and deadlifts in the same session, and then there was walking lunges, and I'm just like, dude, she might have trained for 10 years, but 2 years, but she's done like body pump. Like, calm it the fuck down. Like, people jump to a conclusion. Always assume people are more beginner than you think. Have I been getting the Juniper adverts, Kane? I don't know what's going on here. What?
So yes, the Juniper, I keep getting them away. Like, whenever on Instagram, it's like the medical way to lose weight is just like Ozempic. But
okay.
The advert literally says, "I'm getting tired of being told to eat less and move more."
That's the new thing. That's the new thing to shit on at the moment is Ozempic, and I think that's unfair. I think it's unfair on Ozempic. I think it has its place. Like, I tell you what, the most frustrating place to be in the fitness industry is to see the pros and cons of stuff and have nuance, because everyone has a very strong opinion. Ozempic's awful. It's going to make all your muscles waste away. I'm like, most people that are taking Ozempic aren't bodybuilders. Most people taking Ozempic don't have any muscle mass to begin with. Most people who are using Ozempic, if you try to get them on a diet, you're trying to battle constantly. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. If I can get rid of the I'm hungry, I can work on lifestyle things. I can work on sleep. I don't want them to be on the Ozempic forever, but like, it's like shake diets, right? People talk about shake diets with people who are morbidly obese. And people go, oh, shake. I think we said this on Friday's Coaching Confidence, didn't we? But people like morbidly obese people getting massive shake diets, and doctors wouldn't give them if they were crazily unhealthy. Like if going low calorie for a short period of time is going to destroy your hormones in like a week, they wouldn't be giving morbidly obese people these things. Obviously the threat of being obese is more dangerous than the threat of having a few days on 800 calories. And that's the perspective of like, look, we all of us say to our clients, hey, do you know what? You've eaten a bit more food. Don't worry about it. One day doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But none of us do the same as coaches with bringing clients' calories down for a day. That was shown as big light bulb moment on Friday. I can see us smiling, But it's like, zoom out. Also, I know mine's just lonely grannies in your area. Okay. This chat is dissolving, and I knew it would do when Kane jumped in, but I'm totally all for it. So good, Janet. Hope we answered your question. And again, open floor, guys. Anything else you guys want to particularly go through? Nicola, go for it.
I've got a client that's got issues with his rotator cuff. In fact,
Okay.
I have 2 clients with issues, but this one in particular I'm talking about. He had an operation in February 21, a rotator cuff repair,
Okay.
stabilization of the long head of his bicep, and a repair of his transverse humerus ligament.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're like, what on earth does that mean?
I've been reading a little bit about it. So
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt it. But yeah, that's like, I love it when doctors and physios just like dump all the stuff on a trainer and like, yes, like, trainers should know anatomy, but come on, like give them a chance.
yeah,
you know?
a little
Yeah,
bit.
okay.
Oh, me thinking out loud, is it because, is it worth strengthening the back muscles, as in your traps and your rhomboids?
Potentially so. Does it still cause an issue? Is this a brand new client?
He's been with me since February. He is
Okay.
under physio who has set him certain exercises that she wants me to put in. One being like a punch up with a cable. So I suppose, is it like a serratus?
You'd be looking at serratus probably. There'd be
Yeah.
a few things there. You also got to think of, like, when you look at a movement, right, you got to think of what's front and back of the joint. So if we look at, let's say, a landmine press, which is essentially what that is, right? We've got this exercise here where we've got anterior delt, right? So if I let that weight just drop, what's the thing stopping it? What's the thing decelerating it? So we've got the front delt and we've got the serratus, especially when we start to do that and protract. That's what the serratus will do, right? But for this to happen, there's going to be stuff on the backside that's going to stabilize and keep that joint locked into place. And that's what we're going to be looking at when it comes to our rotator cuff. So our rotator cuff, and again, I think when Kane says which one in the chat, I'm assuming he means which rotator cuff. Have they given you any information of which rotator cuff? Or they've just said rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff.
I love it how they're really specific on the tendon and the long head of the bicep, but not on which rotator cuff muscle it was. like what? But yeah, so if you think about what's going on there, so obviously we've got those prime movers, but on that backside, we've got, okay, we're lengthening the, and potentially putting the rear delt in a more weaker position, which now is in a position where we can actually then challenge that to stabilize that joint. We're also looking at the things of the muscles of the rotator cuff, supraspinatus, teres major, infraspinatus, subscapularis, right, to pull that into that joint. So we've got those muscles directly there that we can work on. So what exercises have they given to the physio given to them?
So that was one of them, a rear delt cable fly and like a low to high cable press.
So we've got low to high cable press, the landmine thing, and then a rear delt fly.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm assuming he's probably doing there, from my perspective, is obviously I think he's going with the assumption the rear delt will help stabilize that joint more. That's what's probably lacking from a weakness perspective in what he's assessed, and we're probably looking at exercises that challenge that stability a little bit. So it's like, if we look at the rotator cuff, right, their action, not all of them, but let's just be simplistic for now. Most of their actions are going to be external rotation. It's me doing this, right? But their function is to pull the humerus into the glenohumeral joint. That's their job, is to like keep this locked in whilst we're moving through positions. So have you ever seen people do like a kettlebell bottom under press?
Yeah.
That is like a more advanced way to train that function. So we could look at, this is like a Pallof press, for example, would change that, because if I've got a cable pulling this way, what's going to stop me doing this?
Yeah.
It's going to be those rotator cuff muscles and that rear delt. So that's probably what the logic is here. We're going to change things that he's probably being pretty smart, this physio, and going, well, let's train his shoulders and let's train his serratus and let's train rear delt and let's train all the things that look good. But let's also challenge that stability a little bit, like a kettlebell bottom under press would challenge that stability a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing from your perspective is there anything that this person's doing that's causing pain? Because if he's had the injury, had the repair, and he's getting physio for it, like, is there an issue? Because if there's no issue, there's no problem for you. But is he causing any discomfort on pressing or rows or
he
anything
can't
like this?
press anything overhead.
Okay. So where's his overhead range? Like, do you know where it is? How far, much range he has?
No.
Okay, so that may be your first step. So again, because I know you weren't here for the assessments module, rib cage, pelvis stacked down, ideally stood up, I'm sat down, come up overhead until you get stuck. So for me, I'm looking at about there today. And that might change every time he comes in the gym to a degree, but that's going to be it. For me to go further, right, if I want to go overhead, that looks like Simon's got his arm further and gone overhead. But if I turn to the side, not hit the balcony, I get here, what's changed? Have I actually moved my arm any further?
No, your chest is lifted.
My chest is lifted, right? I've just moved lumbar. So then that's where potentially things cause issues.
Okay.
And that's probably where long head of the bicep's probably been a little bit gammy, because your long head of your bicep will come through and attach onto your scapula. So often.
Sorry. So are you saying wherever he can get to comfortably,
that's where you set his pressing.
Oh, he's pressing. Okay.
And maybe his pull downs. So if you do pull downs, leaning back a little bit, and when you use pressing, leaning back a little bit. The first stage with the injury, as a coach, because like again, staying in our remit as much as possible, is finding what the client currently has, owns, and tolerates. That's what we call the RTS principles, if anyone has or wants to do RTS. So where the RTS is really good, it's like, right, this client's got injury or niggle or range of motion issue or structural issue. What can we train in safely and do our job? And that should always be priority number one, because we're not physios. You're not here to fix his rotator cuff. You're here to either have him build muscle, look jacked, get stronger, drop some body fat, right? So you need to be able to find ways of doing that. Now, that doesn't mean, and this is where RTS, I think, drops down a little bit, this doesn't mean that we stay there forever and never, ever explore what he can do. But I would certainly say that's where you go for now, that the physio do their job and give you the all clear, and then start to explore new ranges of motion. So maybe then you can play around with opening some stuff up, adding loaded stretches, adding pauses and lifts to get you a bit of extra range, and then move into it. Better than movement mechanics to us, guys. First off, Kane, I really appreciate you using my terminology of muscle mechanics and movement mechanics. I'm hoping that catches on. Secondly, I think they're both good. I just think both of them are people who are zealots. Like RTS is really good from a perspective of, I've got this client, what can I do with them now to get them big, jacked and strong? But you go too far down the wormhole, you're adding more bands on a sex swing, you work in smaller and smaller range of motion, and people get tight as fuck. Movement mechanics, guys, great. And then if people don't understand what I'm talking about, muscle mechanics is like the RTS, biomechanics side that you see people putting like reverse bands on stuff, and they always talk about active and passive ranges of motion. And then movement mechanics, guys, are people that always talk about breath work and rib cage mechanics and like bucket handle and pump handle rib cage stuff. And I think that's great, because that can really free up movement. It's amazing what you can do when you can get someone's rib cage moving. But I'm going to do 20 good breaths with you in a session. You're going to do thousands at home. It's like pissing in the ocean trying to make it yellow. You need to load that shit. And I see people trying to be coaches, trying to become glorified physios, or coaches who go, their client goes, oh, I really want to look like a men's health cover model. Well, first, we've got to do 6 months of making sure you've got the perfect degree of anterior pelvic tilt. No client's ever said to me, Simon, do you know what I'd really love? Better anterior pelvic tilt. Like, ever. So it's somewhere in the middle. Kane, if you're in a position where you can unmute, do you want to give your take on this? Because you're good with the anatomy stuff, and other than just posting pictures of a bit.
What do you want me to answer to?
So
my viewpoint on
when Nicola finished her big sip of water, we're looking at struggles with pressing overhead. Any pain in any other movements?
No, but apparently he has tightness in his pec as well, which is
based off the physio or based on his interpretation?
From the physio. She says that she thinks the bicep is overcompensating.
Possible. So he probably lacks in shoulder extension, I would have thought there. So lack of overhead, tight pecs, whether they're tight or not, we can discuss. Long head of the bicep issue, rotator cuff injury. So he can't stabilize deep movements, I would have thought. Kane, what's your take? Oh, is he contemplating here?
Which pec is it? Is it left?
Did you want that? Did you want me to be more specific?
Well, it'd either be pec major or pec minor, and I have no idea where he was going with that, if that's what he was asking. It'd be major.
Right. So we don't know what rotator cuff it is. So that narrows it down. So you just train all of them.
you could start. You could start with some sort of like cuff fly or press to take away some of that extension in the shoulder. Look at more incline-based things from a chest perspective. Just so you don't need to be in that shoulder extension as much, which
I
is
like that.
required more from the flat stuff. You could.
And just on that point, whilst Kane's
A lot
thinking
of
his next,
it.
just sorry, Kane, just whilst you're going into your next point, I think there as well, like I would start with incline for that reason. If he's struggling and if he's got a tight pec and when he gets into extension, his biceps kicking in more to stabilize that joint, right? Then, as Kane says, maybe start on more mid inclines, maybe start on more like cuffed work to take the bicep out a little bit. But then over time, add pauses in those inclines so we can have a little bit of a stretch on the pec. And then over time, if you can, if it's not causing any issues, just slowly work him down. And then he's going to go slowly more into that shoulder extension.
He has been doing a floor press, and
that'll probably be because he lacks shoulder extension.
Yeah.
So that makes sense of what Kane was going into. Like a floor press will just cut that off. So maybe you add in like an incline press on one of his other days, so you can kind of like test that where his extension is, find out where he's comfortable, and work back. Kane, where were you going through to there, dude?
A lot of stuff is potentially that you can manipulate some stuff with levers to see if he can tolerate stuff. So you might start with maybe a cuff above the elbow, see how he tolerates anything around that. Then start working it down as you do open up a little bit more stuff. You could throw in some incline curls because they fix everything, pretty much. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. It just depends on what he can tolerate. Potentially.
What exercise were you saying for the cuff at his elbow?
There's loads of them you could do.
I'm pulling
some sort of fly. So I'd say you could do a fly. You could also turn that into a press. You could do some sort of rear delt row, because I think dependent on where you do the fly from, it might be pulling him into a bit more like elevation and stuff of the scap, which might cause some issues. So it could be stuff like that. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff you could do.
Can people see the whiteboard, by the way, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like being back at school.
Let's build something out. So let's start with the exercises the physios has given this person. So you need to put them into each session. What are they?
A low to high cable fly.
A low to high cable fly. I'm going to put that here to now, but let's move it. We might move it around. Yeah.
A bit like a landmine press, I suppose, with the cable.
You know what? I might put that into here, because that could be a vertical press
and a cable rear delt fly.
That's an easy pair with that, right? So now we've got something that is, and you could choose. You could do these here if you wanted to, or you could try the play around with the phase of doing the rear delt fly, like at the start, and see if that helps stabilize the joints. You could play around with. You might want to look at something like something for his rotator cuff before he starts. So here's what I potentially would do. Maybe look at some form of some form of cable externalization. And you can play around with that, like in terms of angle. Maybe look at some sort of like cable retraction on that other day. So this day we're looking at stabilizing the white was frozen. Can people see?
Yeah.
Can people still see what I've written in? Because some people are saying it can't. If I type blah 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 blah, can people see blah 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 blah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just hopefully for some people it's working. That's weird. That some people it's working. I'll read it out when I get to the end because I have no idea why that's happened. But so Kane's thinking thoracic extension. So we could look at that's not a bad shout actually, because I bet his rib cage doesn't move well. So let's look at something like some form of T-spine work. I would say like a breathing drill, like a bear breathing drill. So go into like, you know, like the camel in yoga. Take a deep breath into your nose for 5 seconds. Try and expand the rib cage. As you breathe out, breathe all the air out, push that rib cage down. So now we can really focus on expanding that rib cage and take out the pecs and the traps and things like this. Maybe have that on both days. as like a little bit of a warm-up, and then go. So then you can then go into something on day one, something that stabilizes the actual rotator cuff. Then maybe day two, we can do something that works on retraction and see what works better. If one doesn't seem to work, scrap it and do double up on the other one. And then, as Kane said, you said an incline curl, Kane, didn't you? In something like a dumbbell incline curl. I would go dumbbell first over barbell because the cable, because the cable will pull you into more extension and you might not have it. Whereas dumbbells, you can suit it and start the bench quite high and then work that bench back into more extension. Kane, what are the other exercises you said would be good?
Is a cable retraction a row?
Kind of, but you could be, but from a warm-up perspective, it's just retraction. So if you think of the rhomboids, think of them sort of like they've got rhomboid major and minor. So you've got fibers that sort of like go in this direction, and fibers that sort of come down like this. So I would start with like a little higher than shoulder width, probably face into a bench to keep it stable. Bring the shoulders forward, just retract.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. It's just a small movement because we're not looking to like slam them here. This is just like prep work for his main lift.
Right.
And then you can look at some form of incline press, as Kane said. Maybe on the other day, we might do some more floor press.
There was another one, whether or not it's
Go on.
relevant. We used to do one back when the muscle mentors was a thing. I don't think they do it anymore. It wasn't a row, but it was more of like a thoracic flexion extension movement. I'll have to film it, but that could help a little bit in moving the stuff around that without potentially rowing. And then you can add a row in after. But I think getting some movement around the spine and stuff could help potentially.
I like that. And
Loads
then,
of shit we can do.
And then some form of I'd look for some form of upper back row. Let's say, and you can play around with different things. But if you see there,
question.
Go on.
Are there any like grips or anything he struggles with when it comes to rows?
Ooh, good question.
Because
Pronated, he seems to be better with a neutral grip.
have you ever thrown D handles on a row for him?
He has, well, yeah, he has got he has got a neutral grip row in his program currently.
Yeah, but do you throw like D handles on so he can change hand position throughout the movement?
Oh, yeah, they are D handles, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's good then.
Sorry,
Just play around with that and play around with like elbow path, potentially a lean back to suit that a little bit better, dependent on, is it chest supported or is it the non-chest supported?
Just on a row, not chest supported.
Yeah, so play around with torso position and the angle of the poly, because sometimes it pulls down a lot more and sometimes it pulls forward. So sometimes that can be something that's going to maybe potentially pull him passively into other positions. So it's being able to do that. So you might, sometimes I've sat on like a yoga block to change the angle of myself compared to where the machine wants to pull.
Yeah.
And the mat seems to suit a little bit better.
Use some mats if you need to. So what Kane's talking about there is like if you've got a low row pulley, the angle of it might change slightly. So if you put some mats or the yoga block, like you said, you can change the angle of it and it might suit him a little bit better if he gets any trouble with it.
Yeah.
Same.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think there's some really good advice there. And again, it all depends on how you do some of these exercises. But to give you an idea, and obviously, like you don't need to give him this program, but just to get an idea of how this could potentially work. So here on day one, and just so I'm reading this out aloud for the people that may still not be able to see my whiteboard all of a sudden. Bear breathing to be able to open up the rib cage a little bit, which means that that means his scaps can potentially move around the rib cage a bit more freely. It potentially calms the nervous system to his pecs, because the reason why someone's pecs or anything would be tight is because the nervous system's tightening up. It'll allow him to be able to move through the upper back a little bit more, right? That will help him with bracing, so then he can be more stable. And then a cable external rotation on day one and a cable retraction on day two. So day one, we're focusing on stabilizing that glenohumeral joint. Day two, we're focusing on stabilizing the scaps, so we can then focus on that press. So then maybe here, we'll look at that incline press into a split squat. And don't overthink the lower body lifts. I'm just doing a full body program. Like there's no logic to his external rotators, although I could probably work one out for you if you wanted. Some upper back row. We could play around with some stuff that Kane talked about there into your leg curl variation. Then we're going to put in the two physio lifts, that low to high cable fly into cable rear delt. I put those together because you can literally do them on the same cable stacks. You don't have to move. And then if you've got time, a bit of abs or conditioning, depending on what his goals are. Then on that day too, after you warm up, floor press. This could be his big pressing lift because you know he's got the range of motion there. So this is the one you probably be more safely increase in load. Some form of hip extension, the landmine press that the physio gave, into a goblet squat, again, just because you can bring a dumbbell anywhere and just do it right there next to them. Incline dumbbell curl to open up the long head of the bicep in ranges that he owns, start the bench high and slowly work down as his range improves. Maybe something like a face pull. Go on, Kate.
Did we say they struggled with getting overhead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of a press, why don't you give them like even if it's a lat raise or a laying cable raise, and then you can,
You know what?
as they get better overhead range, you can increase the incline of a bench to accommodate that, and then start slowly transitioning into a shoulder press.
Yeah, you could do that. So you could either move that incline press down to a lateral raise. I'll just put a lateral raise in here instead of the face pull because I wasn't confident on that exercise anyway. It was just extra volume for rear delts and mid back. And then the only thing I'd say there is then play around with tempo. So like in say in the incline press, add some pauses in here, spend some time in those lengthened positions, because the reason why someone's going to feel tight in the pecs is because they don't feel safe in that range. So we can get them kind of be like, that's where like that's the difference between RTS and then movement mechanic stuff in a way, even though like this is still loaded and training hard. You'd stay with floor presses forever because that's what they own. Whereas that's great because you know it's safe, you know what they can do. But on the exercise like the incline press or on the flies or on the incline curls, this is your chance to sort of like get them lifting from a position that's ever so slightly on the edge of their range. And over time, they'll get 5% either way. Does that make sense, Nicola? Does that kind of give you a few ideas?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Hopefully, does anyone else have any questions on this program, even especially if you can't see it? Okay, I'm going to stop presenting now. How do I unshare this? Close whiteboard. There we go. And I've taken a picture of that, Nicola, and I'll put it in the group afterwards.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Will, anything in particular from yourself?
No, I think I'm pretty good for now. Thank you, mate.
Awesome. Kane, can you build muscle with gym classes? You know you can, but it's going to be tricky. You know how hypertrophy works, dude. Correct mechanical tension takes someone close to failure. Problem is, you don't often go close to failure on body pump, but you might do for a little while.
Yeah, but everyone's like, yeah, you're not going to build it in classes or whatever. But some people only go to classes, and I think most people that go to classes probably work harder than people that actually go to the gym.
I would say agree with that. That's why CrossFit people build a lot of muscle. And
but if you're going to like a legs, bums, and tums, and you're like going, and you could still get strong on that relatively, even if you're doing like 40 reps a set, you're still probably taking it closer to fatigue than what someone is on their, their shitty bench press when they're like doing a worm to get it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then
100%.
they're actually challenging it. So maybe
100%. Yeah, so like if you look at that sort of like rep continuum of like 0 to 5 is strength, then you look at the functional hypertrophy, strength, endurance, right? They're just guides in a way. Like the closer we get to strength, it's going to be more neuromuscular, like nervous system adaptations and less muscular adaptations. And as you get to strength endurance stuff, it's going to be more cell swelling, metabolic stress. So you're not going to create as much mechanical tension unless you go close to failure on that. Then the best analogy I've ever given this, and I did this in the person events, and I randomly did it off the cuff, and I'm so proud of this analogy. Put a one in the chat. You've seen the movie Die Hard.
Bit before my time, to be fair.
It was before my time, I think. Actually, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. 90s? Was it 90s or was it 80s? When did Die Hard come out? Can't remember. But great, best Christmas movie ever. So the year before I was born, if that's the case. So if we look at the movie Die Hard, right? What happens? Terrorists come in and then they just send over Al Powell. That's like me lifting my Beats case, right? Not going to create much tension. But then the terrorists do a little bit more. And then they send over the LAPD. And then after a while of this, they send over the FBI. And that's like me taking that legs, bombs, and tumbles class to the point where I'm really starting to get close to failure. And then we create that stimulus for hypertrophy. But I could have nuked that building in the first half of the movie, and they could have sent the FBI over in seconds. That's like you lifting 6 to 10 rep max, right? So that you get to, as long as you go close enough to muscular failure, you're achieving the same thing. It's just how efficiently you do it. Now, most people, I still think there's validity in the 6 to 15 sort of rep range for hypertrophy. Not because you can't grow muscle with more, but you're going to have to be in the gym for 17 years. And not because you can't grow muscle with less, but in order to get that close to failure, you're going to have to lift loads so close to your max that is the risk worth it for most people? Probably not. So sure, like the great one that Tom Purvis talks about in the original like RTS principles stuff is you could build muscle on a spin bike. Because what are you technically doing? Like if I look at myself on a leg extension, right, and I look at myself on a spin bike, my quads are creating torque at the knee in both examples through flexion extension. No real difference. Yes, there's some other hip stuff in the bike, but what's actually happening at the quadricep? So, like, could you build muscle on a bike? Yeah. Is it the best way to do it? No. You have to be on that spin bike for a very long time. But I had a mate at university who said the secret to his unbelievable quads was after his leg sessions, he put on a bike onto like a Wingate bike, stuck loads of loads on it, and cycled through mud for like 10 minutes and just like embrace the pain. So absolutely. We've got Alvin the Chipmunks is better. What, better than Die Hard, dude? You are too young. Would you not burn more calories in the class? You would potentially burn a few more calories in the class. Not dramatic. Like you don't burn many calories in lifting anyway. I mean, your watch might tell you you've burnt 3,000, but you won't have done. But like you burn a few more, but like, so it might be even harder to build muscle. So you're not creating as much tension as you would in a weight session, and you're burning a few extra calories. So that kind of becomes a little bit meh. But you could, in theory. What made you ask it? If you got a client that just wants to do classes and nothing else?
No, it's a content idea I had, and I was like, yeah, because it's like some people are only going to go to classes, and they're still like, I want to tone up, lose weight, which is the same thing. Don't want to get massive.
Yeah, but yeah. don't smash them with that. Don't be like, no, toning doesn't exist, you mong. Like no, just say the word. Say toning. Yeah, I'm going to tone your arms, and you just give them a bicep curl.
I suppose it depends what class they're going to, though, doesn't it? I suppose if it's aerobics
to a degree
instead of resistance, then
yeah, and even then, to a degree, you could, in theory, but you wouldn't get very far. It would take a very long time. But I could grow muscle doing this with no load, but I would be here for about a week before I'd even create enough of a stimulus. I'm creating torque in my bicep by doing this, just hardly anything. I might have to. I don't know how many gyms are on the manga, so maybe I'll have to just rely on push-ups and aerobic classes. But I'll have a wander in a second and have a find out. Yeah, but like but it's all nuance, right? It's like if you look at the hip thrust, right? So if you actually look at the force of the hip thrust, it's not a fantastic glute exercise, right? It's about no worries, David. It's about half glute, half quad, a little bit like a leg press would be, right? An incline hyper is a much far superior glute exercise in terms of actually stimulating the glutes, getting them into the shortened position, creating a bigger moment arm of the hip, far superior. But that's assuming we're not looking at loading comparisons. Yes, you lose stimulus on a hip thrust, but I reckon if we gave 25 kilos, mate, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. If I put 2 30-kilo dumbbells in Shona's hands doing incline hypers, right? She'd probably get close to failure relatively soon, but we're probably putting over 100 kilos on that barbell hip thrust. So we're looking at 50% of 100 kilos. Actually, that's a bad example because that would be 60 kilos if I gave her 30-kilo dumbbells. But like if we only have part of 150 kilos and part of 60 kilos, which is actually getting more stimulus on the glutes. The poorer exercise, which we can load better, or the inferior, like the better exercise, we can't load as much. So like I would say an incline hyper is a better glute exercise until you become beastly strong. And then you might just have to understand that there might be a quaddy trade-off that you might have to have.
Did
Actually,
you ever use
majority
the
of my
booty
cli-
builder one?
maybe. Let me just read Ashley's thing. Majority of my clients only do Zoom classes and still see great results. Yes, no bodybuilders, but they won't go to the gym. So for me, they're better off doing 4 class a week than not going to the gym at all. I agree. And I used to shit on classes so hard. I'd be like, why are you doing Zumba? Zumba's stupid. I was like, even if they weren't my client, that client who hates the gym got into Zumba, they lose the first 2 pounds, and they're like, oh, this is all right, this. What else could I do? I want to lose 2, 3, 4 more. That might have been my client in 3 years. They weren't my client in 3 years because I made them feel like an idiot for doing Zumba. Like, if I just encouraged it and let them do acro aerobics, which, by the way, if any of you have ever done acro aerobics, those grannies are tough. That is so brutally hard. It's one of the hardest classes I've ever done in my whole life. So like, it's all relative. It gets people started, and then we'll find out where people are in the next phase of training. It might be hardcore bodybuilders in 10 years.
Have they got one in the pool at your hotel, Simon? Acro aerobics?
No, I don't think they've got anything except the car park next door to my hotel. I've not chosen hotels wisely. I really haven't. But I'll find a beach club and I'll do some acro aerobics. And if I do, I'll get some pictures for you all. Imagine Zumba classes I just end up doing slug and lettuce. That's true. That is definitely what you did at slug and lettuce. No, anyone else was still here for that? Ashton might have been here for Kane's Dance Moves. I'm not sure. Shona, were you in slug and lettuce with us at that point? No, you didn't make it that far. Yeah,
I actually made a return
right.
I returned to Slug and Lettuce on Friday. Just
your
as
local
eventful.
one?
Yeah, like, what was it? I left when Unwritten came on. So Unwritten, blared back, dropped the half splits and left. That's literally it. So
fair enough.
in jeans as well.
As much as I love talking about Kane's Dance Moves, have you got any more fitness questions before I leave you guys to it for the day?
Have you got any footage of it? That's what I want to know.
Someone has. I know for a fact someone has, but I can't remember who it was. But someone definitely
Mark
has
Foy
in the video.
does.
Mark Foy. Well, Mark Foy's in this course. Mark, when you watch this back, mate, put in the announcement group Kane dancing just for everybody else to see it. That'd be great.
Wouldn't call it that, but
Martin, are you all good? Anything you need for at the moment?
Just a quick one, mate. I'm sure like the answer's pretty quick as well, mate. How long, when you're doing linear periodization for newbies, would you keep them in that phase of more like muscular endurance, kind of like, or around those higher rep ranges for like, because as you know, like it is quite individual. Some people are going to pick it up a lot quicker than others. I'm presuming that's going to be your answer, but is there a good micro or mesocycle to put them onto? Like how long?
So when I build programs, like I've some people have hard and fast rules of how long and short programs should be, and the answer, as Kane put, it depends. As you alluded to, Martin, it depends. I will write it out as if it's a certain length of time, and then I will be completely open to adding weeks or subtracting weeks if I need to.
Yeah.
So the things that you're potentially looking out for here, I would write it as 3-4 week phases. So like 10 to 12, 8 to 10, 6 to 8, for example. Just because I want to get them as quickly as possible to lifting a decent amount of load. And in 4 weeks, I'm pretty confident, especially one-to-one, I can train everyone to do a good 6 reps. So I would do 3-4 week phases, but it will depend on the skill of the individual. Like, do they know their arse and their elbow? If they don't know their arse and their elbow, it might take a little bit longer. Or the opposite, if they are really, really good at it, there's going to be a point where let's say they get by week 2, they're already like keeping tension with 12 reps. They may have residual DOMs from that by the Wednesday. So I might then switch to phase early to allow them to be able to maybe have a little bit less, a little bit more volume per session, but maybe space out the body parts a little bit in that second block. So that's 2 things I do. Also, I may change it whenever I see signs of people's nervous system not being able to adapt to the stimulus. Now, if you're looking at a linear periodization beginner, this is less of a concern because everything you're doing is an improvement on what they were doing. And I wouldn't look at low recovery as being a training issue with a beginner because it's probably a sleep and work too much and lights and poor nutrition and etc.
Yeah.
But if someone's getting like tons of like tendinitis-y things, I might shift them up the continuum if I felt they were capable. So I'd write it out as 3-4 week phases. And then just if someone needs a little bit extra time, add a few weeks. If someone is progressing quickly, you can do it at 3 week, call it 3 and move on.
Yeah, that makes sense, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I do. Anyone else, guys? We all good other than that? Ashling, I know you've got your mic wasn't working, but if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. But if not, guys, I'm going to go and have a little bit of a stroll around the marina. I'll show you. I'll show you sort of what it looks like. There we go. It's nice.
That's nice.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything here. It looks pretty. We'll see if there's anything here. I'll let you guys know. Right, guys. I'll leave you to it there. Hope you're all good. Speak to you all soon.
Thank you.